Hi guys, how are you? This video is a supplementary material for you because we are having online class starting from this meeting. So today in this video, I will try to help you to have your second review for your final test. And basically, there are three things that we will do in this meeting. The first one is to watch this video from the beginning until the end. And the second one is to do the online exercise that your teacher will provide you in the middle of this meeting. And the third one, we will have a question and answer session at the very end of this meeting. So please stay tuned to this video and the meeting that your teacher have provided. All right, now let's talk about the topic that we will do in this meeting. There are four topics. First one, we have biography or autobiography. The second one, we have comparative and superlative. Next, we have making plans, and last but not least, we have request and permission. Without further ado, let's start, and I hope you enjoy watching this video. Okay, so the first topic that we can discuss is about biography or autobiography. But let's talk about the definition first. So what is biography? A biography is about a story of events of a person's life written by someone or other people. It usually uses the pronoun of third person point of view, for example, he, she, they, and it. Whereas the autobiography is a biography actually. It's about a biography that is written by the same person. So we can say that the authors is retelling his or her life events. So we know that the person being discussed in the autobiography is usually the author, and it usually uses the first person point of view or the pronoun I and we. All right, now let's talk about the elements that we can look at the biography and autobiography. First one, we have personal information and details about what the person being discussed in the autobiography or biography do. For example, name, date of birth, origin, activity, education, and so on. The next one, we have achievement. We know that a person can have more than one achievement, so it is good that we use conjunction, for example, first, second, third, finally, to make it clear and to be in order. And the third element is other interesting information. So if the person being discussed in the biography or autobiography has something that is unique and you want people to know more about that fact, or maybe fun facts that people need to know, then it is always good to discuss this point also. Right. So we have already talked about the elements of biography, but what kind of tenses that we use in the biography? We usually use simple past tense in writing the biography or autobiography because it talks about someone's past life or maybe someone's life um, as long as they live. So we usually use conjunction also, for example, when to explain time, because, since to give reason, before to mention even, or the time that it happens earlier to make the biography more concise and understandable. Okay, we have already talked about the elements. Now we can talk more about the simple past tense. If you draw a line between past, present, and future, the action of simple past tense will happen around the past, before present, or even the future. So now let's talk about the functions. So simple past tense is about the actions that is completed in the past, and it happened at a specific point of time. As I mentioned before present or even the future. Right. So in simple past tense sentences, there are two kinds of sentence, the one with the verb and the one with to be. First, with the verb, we usually use the simple past verb, and it has two forms, regular or irregular verbs. For regular verbs, you can add ed or d after the verb. For example, talked, believed, opened. And for the irregular verbs, there are no actual or exact rules of how we write the word or the verb. For example, said, ate, and saw as the form as the simple past form of the verb say, eat, and see. And for to be, the past tense to be will be was or were, and the use of it depends on the subject that we have. For example, was is for singular subject I, he, she, it, and for were we have to use it with the plural subject they, we, and so on. Right, now let's talk about the sentences of simple past tense. We have three. The first one is the positive, or we might say the affirmative sentence. For example, you saw me yesterday. You watched a movie last night. The phone rang a few minutes ago. Here we see the three verbs that is in the simple past form, saw, watch, and rang, as the form of the infinitive see, watch, and ring. And for the negative sentence, we also use the auxiliary verb did, and then followed by not and the infinitive verb. You see, we don't use the simple past verb again because the auxiliary verb did already represent the past tense. For example, you didn't see me yesterday. She didn't watch a movie last night. The phone didn't ring a few minutes ago. And the third kind of sentence that we have is question sentence or interrogative sentence. You see, here in this kind of sentence, we have inversion. It means that the auxiliary verb is inversed with the subject. So we have the auxiliary verb first before the subject. For example, did you see me yesterday? Did you watch a movie last night? Did the phone ring a few minutes ago? Here we see also when we have the auxiliary verb, the verb is in the infinitive form because did here already represent the past tense. Okay, so another important topic to discuss is about comparative and superlative adjectives. But first, let's talk about the definition. The comparative adjectives is used to describe nouns, for example, people, objects, animals, by comparing them to something else. And for the superlative adjectives is used to express the extreme or highest degree of one thing in a group of things. But how do we make the comparative and superlative adjectives? It depends on the rules of the comparative and the superlative. First, I will tell you about rules of comparative adjectives. If we have one syllable, we can add er after the adjective. For example, New York is older than London. And when we have one syllable ending in e, what we have to do is to only add r after the adjective. For example, Tokyo is safer than India. And when we have one syllable ending in a vowel and a consonant, what we usually do is to double the last consonant of the adjective before we add er. For example, Seoul is bigger than Beijing. If you want more information, you can look at your book about this topic. And when we have two syllables ending in y, what we have to do is to replace the letter y with letter I, and then add er. For example, Wonosobo is cloudier than Semarang. And when we have two or more syllables, what we have to do is to add the word more before the adjective. For example, New York is more modern than London. And the last one, we have irregular comparative adjectives. It means that there is no exact rules in how to form the comparative adjectives. For example, the food in Paris is better than the food in London. So the word better is the comparative adjective form of the adjective good. All right, now let's talk about the rules of superlative adjectives. When we have one syllable, we can add est after the adjective. For example, Damascus is the oldest city in the world. Pay attention to always add the before the superlative adjectives. And when we have one syllable ending in e, what we have to do is to only add st after the adjective. For example, Tokyo is one of the safest cities in the world. And when we have one syllable ending in a vowel and a consonant, what we have to do is to double the last consonant of the adjective before adding est. For example, Libya is the world's hottest country. And when we have two syllables ending in y, as it is in the comparative adjectives, we can replace the letter y with the letter I before adding est. For example, Tokyo has one of the busiest railway systems in the world. And when we have two or more syllables, what we have to do is to add the word most. For example, Tokyo is the world's most expensive city. And the last one, we have the irregular form of superlative adjectives. It means that there is no exact rules of how we form these superlative adjectives. For example, Pluto is the farthest planet from the sun in our solar system. So the farthest here is the form of superlative adjectives from the adjective far. The next topic is making plans. And the question is, what kind of tense that we use in making plans? We can use future tense. Why? Because it talks about things that haven't happened yet or in the future, or actions, even conditions that will begin and end in the future. Right. The first form of the future tense is the one with the modal will. So the structure is subject followed by will and the infinitive verb. For example, she will order food tomorrow. Will followed by the word order as the infinitive verb. And then the second form of future tense is be going to, subject followed by be and going to, and then infinitive verb. For example, she is going to order food tomorrow. Be here is the to be. So for example, in present to be is mr. Alright, now let's talk about the differences between will and be going to in terms of the function. So for will, the first function is to talk about rapid decision. For example, I'm late, I will go now. To offer, I will get you the mail so you can give it to Mr. Smith. A promise, I will not quit before I reach my goals. Threat, make sure you arrive on time tomorrow because the bus will not wait for you. And refusal, I will not do all the housework myself. You see here the word go, get, quit, wait, and do is in the infinitive because we have the modal will that is always should be followed by infinitive verb. And for be going to, the function is to talk about prior plan or decision. For example, I'm going to take a few exams at the end of the year. To talk about evidence or signs or predictions, it is going to snow again soon. When we use future tense, we can add more adverb, for example, adverb of time, like tomorrow, tonight, next summer, 5 years from now, a few minutes later, this afternoon, and so on. Okay, now let's talk about request and permission. But what is a request and what is a permission? So when you make a request to someone, it means that you want to ask someone to do something you require. And when you ask for someone's permission, it means to take someone's consent about things that you will do. Alright, so here are some examples of the request and permission expression that you can use in your daily conversation. First, could you please help me with my homework? Can you come with me to the doctor? Can I have some coffee, please? And for permission, could I go for the picnic, please? May I come in, sir? Can I borrow your pen? May I leave work a bit earlier today? And the last form of the expression for permission, you can use the phrase, do you mind? Or would you mind? If I followed by simple past verb. For example, do you mind if I left work early? Would you mind if I talked to her for a second? And how to respond. You can use the phrase, I'm afraid I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Certainly. Sure. Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry you can't. You can see here the phrases that is typed in blue color is only for responding to request. And the phrases with a purple color, it is used only for permission. And the phrases in the middle, such as certainly, sure, yes, of course, yeah, sure, you can use for both permission and request. Right, finally, here comes the topic to be discussed. How do you give direction for someone to go somewhere? Feel free to share the expression you know to the comment section. Later, when we have the question and answer session by Zoom app, we will discuss it together with your class. Well, I guess that is all that I can deliver to you. Feel free to ask questions to your teacher about the topic. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.